Who is Dr. Elijah?
Who is Dr. Elijah? I'm still figuring that out. I am still figuring out who Dr. Elijah is. Today, Dr. Elijah is a black trans man who is happily out loud and proud.
Awesome. So, what are your pronouns?
My pronouns are he, him, and his. Thank you for asking. What
Absolutely.
are your pronouns, doctor?
He, him, and his.
Awesome.
So, tell us about your experience. How did you become Dr. Elijah?
Well, I wasn't always Dr. Elijah. I started my transition in 2018, really 2017. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin as a closeted lesbian. Was at church every week and every summer in vacation Bible school, and went to the military when I was 17 years old. My mama had to sign the paper so I could get in. And I served 25 years in the closet.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was the best time and the not so good times of my life. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
So,
You're welcome.
what was that? What was the defining moment relative to your identity? What was that aha moment that made you say, "I have to live and walk in my authentic truth"?
So that's a great question. So I've always prided myself on 3 core values: authenticity, transparency, and integrity. And as a preacher, that's what I preached about, right? And in 2017, I was in a play at Emory University Theater, and there was a moment in the mirror, literally. I was playing a non-binary character and a trans character. This is before my transition. And there was a moment in the mirror, and the line was, maybe it's supposed to be this way. And I looked at myself in the mirror, and I could have won an Oscar that night, because I literally looked at myself in the mirror, and I paused, and I saw myself as a child in that moment. I saw the little boy that had been hiding for 48 years. And I was like, you know what? When I get up off of this seat, because I was seated looking in the mirror, literally, I said, this is it. I cannot live life in silence anymore.
Wow. So now, first of all, you just said 48.
Yes, I'll be 52 in September.
Wow. You don't look it.
Well, thank you.
I know that we say black don't crack, but your black really has not cracked at all.
Thank you,
So
doctor.
how do you feel about the evolution of what we consider gender norms today?
It is indeed an evolution, and it's been an evolution of understanding for myself, right? One of the reasons I didn't transition before now is because I didn't understand what being transgender was. I didn't know what being trans was. And, once I transitioned and I realized that even being trans, there's a spectrum of gender identities even in that framework.
Yeah, and that is something that I'm coming to understand. I met you recently at a LGBT music fest in Cancun, and so definitely was inspired by your story and by the fact that all of the brothers that were on the panel were men of what I call men of a certain age, but nevertheless still thriving and going forth in purpose. Was quite inspiring to me. So you're definitely inspiring to me, and you're walking in your authentic truth. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
So describe your relationship now and then with your family. And
Wow. So my relationship, I'm divorced, so that piece of my family is past tense right now. Part of my evolution, if you will, on the gender journey was I married as a lesbian. And so my former wife married a lesbian. So when I transitioned, she basically was like, I married a woman. And I was like, well, I'm not a woman anymore, so like, how's this gonna work? And so we're very cordial and respectable to one another now, but it just was it was just not conducive for our friendship relationship anymore.
so it was the whole notion of perhaps I married a woman, and if I wanted to be with a man, I would have married a man.
That's exactly what she said. I didn't want to say that, so I'm glad that you said it. That's it. That's exactly what she said. And at the time, I was very offended. I was like, well, wait, what? I thought we said, you know, to death do us part and whatever. But now in hindsight, as I've grown on my journey, I understand that was her truth. Now I'm walking in my truth, and I have to respect and honor and cherish her truth.
Well, how long were you all married?
Oh, we were married, by the time we were divorced, we were married 5 years. We were together almost 8 years.
Wow. Wow. And so sometimes that journey when you think you're walking in the same place and space, and then something happens where the other person grows.
Absolutely.
And you have to, how can two walk together except they agree?
They have
and there
to
was
agree.
no agreement going on.
Right.
Wow.
That's good. I love how you say that, preacher.
Takes one to know one.
Yes, that
Takes
was
one
good.
to know one.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a little bit about you are a former U.S. vet. Thank you again for your service.
You're welcome.
You are a preacher, teacher, and reacher.
Yes. Yes.
You are also an author.
Yes.
In which you're reaching and through this book.
Yes.
And again, I was telling you the story earlier about how I had the opportunity to read this book on the plane, and I think people were looking at me crazy, like he's reading a children's book, this grown man. But tell us about Madoodle.
So Madoodle is the story of a 10-year-old girl named Madison, an African-American young girl who is navigating the journey of her Uncle Pete, who used to be her Auntie Mary, her favorite auntie. And so she's navigating this whole gender transition, and she basically just wants to understand. She just wants to understand, and she wants to make sure that she doesn't lose her relationship with who used to be her auntie, the man becoming, the new Uncle Pete. She wants to make sure that they still have their relationship. I call her the love superhero.
Yes, yes, yes. One of the things that you mastered in this book was taking what we would, by adult standards, is a very complex issue, and you simplified it so that a child could understand it. I was like, wow, once I read it. Is it that simple?
It really is that simple. What you just said reminds me of and I call myself a pastor, preacher, but not a theologian.
Got
so
it.
I don't know this particular scripture, but there's a scripture where Jesus talks about becoming like children. And so that actually, as I wrote this book, that's how it was simplified for me, and it gave me a different understanding of that scripture. As adults, if we just become like children, if we remember what we knew when we were children, we would realize that not just gender transition, but life really is that simple.
Wow.